Hey, welcome to the English Podcast Lab. I'm Mike, and today we're taking a deep dive into the art of conversation starters.
Oh, absolutely.
You know those moments when you're standing there
Yes.
and your mind goes blank?
Oh, totally.
Well, we're going to unpack all that with the amazing Sarah.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome, Sarah.
I'm excited to delve into this with you. Because, let's be honest,
Yeah.
who hasn't felt that awkward silence creep in during a conversation?
Oh, tell me about it.
Right.
Sometimes I feel like I'm back in high school all over again.
Yeah.
Just hoping someone will talk to me.
Exactly.
But you know what's funny?
What's that?
The more I read about this,
Yeah.
the more I realize that starting a conversation
Yeah.
isn't about finding the perfect line.
Right.
It's about creating a connection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about being present,
Yeah.
engaging with the other person,
Yeah.
and showing genuine interest.
I like that. So let's ditch the cheesy pickup lines
Please.
and dive into some real strategies. What really works when it comes to starting a conversation?
Well, one of the most effective things you can do is ask open-ended questions.
Okay.
Instead of those closed questions that just lead to a yes or no answer.
You mean like instead of asking, did you have a good weekend?
Exactly.
You could ask,
You could say something like,
what was the highlight of your weekend?
precisely.
I like that.
That kind of question invites the other person to share more about themselves.
Yeah.
And it gives you a chance to really listen and learn about them.
I love that because it's not about putting on a show or trying to be witty.
Right.
It's about showing that you're curious about the other person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what?
What's that?
Sometimes the simplest things can be the best conversation starters.
Okay.
Commenting on something you both observe
Uh-huh.
in your surroundings
Yeah.
can be a great way to break the ice.
Like what? Give me an example.
Let's say you're at a party
Okay.
and you see someone admiring a painting. You could say something like, "That's a beautiful piece, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
What do you like about it?"
Okay.
Or maybe you're at a conference and you overhear someone talking about a topic
Yeah.
that interests you.
Right.
You could chime in with,
Yeah.
"I couldn't help but overhear your conversation.
Wait.
I'm really interested in that topic too."
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It's about finding that common ground
Right.
and using it as a springboard for further discussion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it shows that you're paying attention to your surroundings.
Yeah.
And that you're genuinely interested in connecting with others.
Well, now what about those situations
Okay.
where you're in a completely new environment
Oh, yeah.
and you don't know anyone,
Yes.
like at a networking event
Yes.
or a social gathering where everyone seems to already know each other?
Right. Those can be tricky.
Yeah.
But one strategy that I found helpful
With that.
is to look for someone
Okay.
who's also standing alone or who seems a bit approachable.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are
Yeah.
they're feeling just as awkward as you are,
Yeah.
and they'll be grateful for someone to talk to.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in our own insecurities
Right.
and forget that other people might be feeling the same way.
Exactly.
And sometimes just making eye contact and smiling
Yes,
can be enough to initiate a conversation.
absolutely.
Yeah, it shows that you're open and friendly,
Right.
and it invites the other person to approach you.
Exactly.
So it's not always about having the perfect opening line.
Right.
It's about creating that welcoming vibe
Right.
that makes people feel comfortable talking to you.
Exactly.
I like that.
And you know what?
What's that?
Sometimes what you wear can actually be a conversation starter.
Really?
Mm.
I've never thought about that.
Think about it.
Okay.
If you're wearing a unique piece of jewelry,
Okay.
a fun hat, or a shirt with an interesting design,
Yeah.
it can spark curiosity and give people an easy way to compliment you
Uh-huh.
or ask you about it.
So it's like having a built-in conversation piece.
Exactly.
Ooh, I like that.
And it can be a great way to express your personality
Yeah,
and make a memorable first impression.
I love that idea. It's like giving people permission to strike up a conversation with you.
Right. And sometimes all it takes is that little nudge to get the ball rolling.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked about asking open-ended questions.
Yeah.
We've talked about finding common ground.
Right.
We've talked about looking for those approachable people.
Yes.
And we've talked about letting our clothes do the talking.
Exactly.
But what happens once the conversation is actually started?
Right. Good question.
How do we keep it going?
Well, that's where the art of listening comes in.
Okay.
And that's what we're going to dive into next.
All right, so stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back.
And once you've broken the ice,
Okay.
the key is to keep the conversation flowing.
Right.
And one of the best ways to do that is to be a good listener.
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
But what does it really mean to be a good listener?
Right.
I mean, it's not just about sitting there nodding my head, right?
Right. It's about being truly present in the moment
Okay.
and focusing on what the other person is saying,
Yeah.
putting aside your own thoughts and distractions,
Right.
and really tuning into their words,
Right.
their tone of voice, and their body language.
So it's almost like a mindfulness exercise.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
It's about being fully engaged in the interaction
Yeah.
and absorbing not just what they're saying,
Uh-huh.
but how they're saying it.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Because sometimes the way someone says something
absolutely.
can reveal even more than their actual words.
Absolutely. And when you're actively listening,
Yeah.
you'll naturally pick up on cues
Good.
that can guide the conversation.
Like what?
You might notice something they said
Yeah.
that sparks your curiosity,
Okay.
or you might sense a shift in their energy.
Mhm.
That suggests they're ready to move on to a different topic.
So it's about being attuned to those subtle signals
Exactly.
and responding accordingly.
Exactly. And when you do that,
Yeah.
it shows the other person that you're truly interested in what they have to say,
Right.
which makes them feel valued and respected.
That's so important.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, isn't that what we all want?
Yeah.
To feel seen and heard.
And you know what's interesting? When you're truly listening,
Yeah.
you're not just receiving information,
Uh-huh.
you're also learning about the other person's perspective,
Okay.
their values,
Yeah.
their experiences.
It's like you're opening a window into their world.
And in doing so,
Yeah.
you're expanding your own understanding of the world.
I like that.
You're challenging your assumptions.
Yeah.
You're making connections
Yeah.
that you might never have made otherwise.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It makes conversation seem less like a chore
Right.
and more like an adventure.
And you know, sometimes the most rewarding conversations come from those unexpected detours.
Oh, yeah.
Those moments when you veer off the beaten path
Ah.
and discover something new and fascinating.
So it's not always about following a script
Right.
or sticking to a particular topic.
Right. Sometimes it's about letting the conversation unfold organically,
Okay.
trusting your intuition, and being open to wherever it takes you.
Now, what about those times when the conversation starts to lag?
Oh, yeah.
When those awkward silences creep in?
Yeah.
What's the best way to handle those moments?
You know, I used to dread those silences.
Yeah.
I'd feel this pressure to fill the void.
Right.
But what I've learned
Yeah.
is that silence isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Really? Explain that to me.
Sometimes a pause in the conversation
Okay.
can actually be a good thing.
Okay.
It gives both people a chance to gather their thoughts,
Uh-huh.
to reflect on what's been said, and
Right.
to maybe even notice something in their surroundings
Yeah.
that sparks a new idea.
So it's not always a sign that the conversation is over.
Not at all.
Okay.
It could just be a moment of transition,
Yeah.
a bridge to a new topic, or even a chance to simply enjoy each other's company
Yeah.
without feeling the need to constantly chatter.
I love that. It takes the pressure off.
And you know what? Sometimes the most meaningful conversations
What's that?
happen in those quiet moments
Yeah.
when we allow ourselves to be still and present with the other person.
So it's not always about filling the silence with words.
Right.
Sometimes it's about embracing the stillness. And
Exactly.
seeing where it leads.
Exactly. And when you do that,
Yeah.
you might be surprised at the depth of connection
Ah.
that can emerge.
This is making me rethink my whole approach to conversation.
Good, because it's not about mastering some secret formula. It's
Yeah.
about being authentic,
Yeah.
being curious,
Yeah.
and being open to the magic that can happen when two people truly connect.
And speaking of connection,
Yes.
one thing I've been wondering about is how to move beyond small talk
Okay.
and into more meaningful territory.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, small talk can be a bit superficial,
Right.
but it can also be a stepping stone to deeper conversations.
So how do we make that transition?
Right.
How do we go from talking about the weather
Yeah.
to discussing our hopes and dreams?
Well, one way is to simply ask more thoughtful questions.
Okay.
Questions that invite the other person to share their thoughts and feelings
Mm-hmm.
on a deeper level.
Can you give me some examples?
Sure.
Like what kind of questions?
Instead of asking, what do you do for work?
Okay.
You could ask, what are you most passionate about in your work?
Okay.
Or instead of asking, where are you from?
Yeah.
You could ask, what's one thing you love about the place you grew up?
Those are great examples.
Yeah.
They shift the focus from the factual
Really strong
to the
context.
personal.
Exactly. And they invite the other person to reveal more of themselves.
Yeah.
Which can create a sense of intimacy and connection.
It's like you're saying,
Yeah.
I'm interested in more than just the surface level.
Right.
I want to know who you are at your core.
And when you do that,
Yeah.
it often encourages the other person to reciprocate.
Okay.
to ask you those same kinds of questions,
Mhm.
which can lead to a truly meaningful exchange.
So it's about creating that space
Yeah.
for vulnerability and authenticity.
And sometimes the best way to encourage someone to open up
Yeah.
is to share something personal about yourself first.
Like what kind of things?
It could be something as simple as a story
Okay.
about a time when you felt vulnerable.
Yeah.
Or a challenge you've been facing.
Okay.
Or it could be something deeper, like a belief you hold dear,
Okay.
or a dream you're pursuing.
I see. So it's about leading by example.
Exactly.
Showing the other person that it's safe to be real
Right.
and to share from the heart.
Exactly. And when you do that,
Yeah.
it often creates a ripple effect, inspiring the other person to do the same.
It's like you're building a bridge of trust and understanding.
And once that bridge is built,
Yeah.
the possibilities for connection are endless.
This is so insightful, Sarah. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm learning so much about the art of conversation.
And remember, it's an art, not a science.
Right.
There's no right or wrong way to do it.
So it's about finding what feels authentic and genuine for you.
Exactly. And being willing to experiment,
Yeah.
to try new things, and to embrace the imperfections along the way.
Because let's face it, conversations aren't always going to be smooth and effortless.
Of course not. There will be awkward silences,
Yeah.
misunderstandings, and moments when you just don't know what to say.
But those are all part of the process.
And sometimes those imperfections
Yeah.
are what make the conversation memorable.
Okay.
They add a touch of humor,
Huh?
a dash of authenticity,
Yeah.
and a reminder that we're all human.
So it's not about striving for perfection.
Right.
It's about embracing the messiness
Exactly.
and the beauty of human interaction.
Exactly. And when we do that,
Yeah.
we open ourselves up to the possibility of truly meaningful connections.
Well said, Sarah. You've given me so much to think about.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you. I always enjoy these deep dives.
And I have a feeling our listeners are going to get a lot out of this one.
You know what else can really enhance a conversation? Using our 5 senses to be more present.
That's intriguing.
Yeah.
How do our senses play into conversation?
It's about being more aware of your surroundings. Instead of just going through the motions, take a moment to truly observe.
So instead of being stuck in my head, worrying about what to say next,
Right.
I should be paying attention to what I see, hear, smell, taste, even.
Exactly. It's amazing how much we miss when we're not fully present. By tuning into our senses, we open ourselves up to a whole new world of conversation starters.
Can you give me an example?
Imagine you're at a cafe. Instead of just grabbing your coffee and scrolling through your phone, take a moment to savor the aroma, notice the intricate latte art, feel the warmth of the mug in your hands. Then you might comment on the rich aroma to the barista, or compliment the beautiful latte art. It's about finding those little details that can spark a connection.
That's so simple, yet so powerful. It's like we're training our brains to be more observant, which naturally leads to more things to talk about.
Precisely. And it's not just about external observations. Our senses can also help us connect on a deeper level.
How so?
By paying attention to our own internal sensations, we can become more aware of our own emotions and reactions, which can then inform how we interact with others.
So if I'm feeling anxious or overwhelmed, I might notice a tightness in my chest or a racing heart.
Yeah,
And that awareness can help me navigate the conversation more skillfully.
exactly. It's about bringing that same level of awareness to our conversations, noticing how our body responds to different topics or people,
Yeah.
and using that information to guide our interactions.
This is fascinating. It's like we're tapping into a whole new level of communication, one that goes beyond words.
And you know what? When we're truly present and engaged, those awkward silences become less daunting.
Because we're not desperately searching for something to say. We're simply being.
Exactly. And that sense of ease and presence is magnetic. It draws people in and creates a space for genuine connection.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and insights.
My pleasure. Remember, conversation is an art, so keep practicing, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep connecting.
And to all our listeners, we'd love to hear from you. What are your favorite conversation starters? Share your tips and experiences in the comments below. Until next time, happy chatting.